Hello my friend, today I want to share with you my vegan Costco haul for our family of 3. We have lots of healthy and delicious items here. So let's go ahead and get started. If you've seen my Costco hauls before, you know I always like to start with the frozen items first so that I can get them back in the freezer. So up first is this organic very berry blend. This has been our go-to favorite lately, even though we are enjoying the last few weeks of summer here. And so we are still getting a lot of fresh strawberries and blueberries, which has been very, very nice. But I do always like to have this on hand in the freezer as backup just in case we run out. Life with a 16-month-old means we are going through a lot of fruit right now, and this has actually been her favorite blend. And then of course we do also use this in other things like for pancake toppings or in our weekly oatmeal. Since there is so much fresh summer produce right now, I have been using a little bit less than usual, but it keeps really well in the freezer, so I don't have to worry about it being there. I just buy it and have it on hand. And then the only other freezer item today, which actually I didn't get from the freezer at Costco, but I keep this in our freezer once I get it home because pro tip for your bread, if you are someone who wants to buy bread at Costco because the price is so much better, but you know that you are not going to go through this whole loaf very quickly, just get it home and put the whole thing in the freezer. I feel like this is such an underrated tip. Bread lasts so well in the freezer, you won't even notice that it has been frozen. Basically, whenever you want some bread, you just take out a couple slices and let them come to room temperature, or just pop them in the toaster and you will have toast ready to go in just a couple minutes. So I got this very large Ace Bakery sourdough bread for our family. We really like bread in the morning. Usually if I make something like tofu scramble, we'll do some toast on the side, or this also makes really great sandwiches, of course. If we don't have any lunch planned and I just need a quick sandwich in a pinch, then I'll have bread ready to go in my freezer at any time. I have been really obsessed with caprese sandwiches right now. I feel like it is the ultimate summer sandwich, so I'm trying to have as many of those before summer is over. And if you haven't seen that one yet, I'll link it down below. It is such a good summer sandwich and so easy, very minimal ingredients. So this is gonna be perfect for that. And then the next fridge item is my other favorite, the organic baby spinach. I pretty much always get this every time I go to Costco because I only go to Costco maybe once a month or once every 2 months. So usually I'll just get like lettuce or kale or something else at the regular grocery store on my in-between shopping trips. But when I go to Costco, I have to get the baby spinach. This lasts a really long time in the fridge, just as is. You can also do the paper towel hack, which I've talked about before. Just put a piece of paper towel on the top and you can tuck one into the bottom as well. And that will help absorb some moisture and help it last a little bit longer. But even just as is, it should last a couple weeks. With us, it usually doesn't even make it that long because we go through it so quickly. This makes a really good addition to stir fries. I love it in our tofu scramble. Sometimes I'll just chop some up and add it into my salads. Or even if you don't have a lettuce or a green for your sandwich and you want to throw some of this in there, it works really well. And of course, if it's getting to the end of the box and you need to use it up quickly, you can always freeze it and throw it into smoothies. Now, this is a fridge item that I have not bought in a while. I actually was buying the dried dates that come in the regular pantry section of Costco, but these are the fresh version that come in the produce section. So I usually just keep them in the fridge to help them last longer. And they are a bit different from regular dried dates. They are a lot more juicy and the texture is just really a lot nicer than dried dates. And I would even say the taste is really much better on these. It's a lot more like caramel. And of course, dates are so good for you. They really help with sweet cravings. If you like a little afternoon or evening sweet treat, but you're trying to maybe watch your calories, try a couple dates. I like them either stuffed with a walnut or you can stuff them with a little bit of peanut butter. I've done a chocolate dipped version. I'll link that video down below as well in case you want to check that out. It makes such a nice dessert. It's really elegant, but really simple to make. But these are just really nice to have on hand for things like snacking, but also I like to use them in energy balls. I'm gonna start making those with my daughter. I think she will really enjoy eating them and making them with me. So it's gonna be a fun little project for us. And then up next, I actually had to open this already for a little afternoon snack for myself and my daughter. She is having a hummus obsession. It is so cute. Every time I cut her lunch plate, she always asks for hummus. She'll be like, hummus, hummus. So I had to open this one for her. This hummus is such a good price at Costco. I remember a friend of ours telling me that he actually did the math on how much he saves just in hummus costs cover his Costco membership, which is a really fun way to look at it. If there's something that you buy a lot of, maybe add it up for your whole year and see if getting a Costco membership is actually worth it. Because even though you do have to pay that annual fee, there are some things that you do end up saving a lot of money on. So this is a really great one to have in the fridge. It is definitely a convenience item. If you do have time to make your own, it's of course gonna be healthier. But if you don't have time and you just want a pretty healthy snack, this has protein, it has fiber, and it just makes a really nice spread on things like sandwiches. If you want something like an alternative to avocado or mayonnaise, you can always sub with hummus. Now, the last of our fridge items is this big box of peaches. I was so excited to see this at Costco. The peaches have been so good in Toronto right now. If you are in Ontario and have not gotten the peaches yet this year, go out and get some. They have been so good. Even the regular ones that I get at No Frills have been really, really tasty. They're quite small, so I'm hoping that these are just as flavorful because they're much, much bigger. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like the small ones are more flavorful than the big ones, but I am excited to dive into these. These are so good just for breakfast. Like obviously we just have some cut fruit in the morning, but I also really love these thinly sliced on a slice of sourdough with a little bit of vegan cream cheese, and then these on top. It is such a delicious breakfast. You could even do your own tofu ricotta instead if you wanted to make it a higher protein breakfast, but just so, so good. Now, I mean, obviously this is a lot of peaches here. So actually what I like to do, because I don't want them to all be ripe at the exact same time, it's too many peaches to eat unless you're gonna make something like a peach pie. But what I will usually do is put almost all of these, like 3/4 of these, into a produce bag, then into the fridge, and that will keep them from ripening further until I'm ready. So I leave about 3 or 4 out on the counter to ripen, and then after 1 or 2 days, I take out a couple from the fridge and add them to my fruit bowl. And then after a couple more days, I add 1 or 2 more. And that way you have this like ongoing cycle of ripe peaches, and you never have to worry about them all being ripe at once and having too many that you don't know what to do with. This just keeps the perfect amount ripe at one time. Up next is this very large bag of mini potatoes. I almost never get potatoes. I don't get a lot of produce at Costco, to be honest, but especially things like potatoes, I just find the quantity very large. And things like potatoes are harder to store for me. Maybe, I don't know, maybe our house is really warm, so I find that they always start to sprout. And you're not supposed to keep potatoes in the fridge, so it really drives me crazy. But I do have very specific plans on ways to use up pretty much all of these potatoes within this week. I'm gonna do a big meal prep, and then once they're cooked, you can store them in the fridge or the freezer. So that's my plan for these. I'm going to do a lentil stew that I'm hoping my daughter will like, as well as some simple, just home fry style potatoes. I think that will be nice with our tofu scramble. And then my husband also really likes this kimchi stew that I usually put these small potatoes in. So I'm going to do a big pot of that for him. So like I said, if you do have plans to use them up pretty quickly, then it's a great deal at Costco, like price-wise. You just gotta make sure you're organized with your prep for the week. Up next, a staple that I have not gotten for a long time. I had really stocked up on these steel cut oats and rolled oats a couple months ago. So I was set on oats for a while, but we finally have run out. We eat steel cut oats pretty much every morning, Monday through Friday. I know it's super boring. Even my husband has told me, he's like, I might be getting tired of oats because he's been eating it the same breakfast for like 15 years, even before he met me. But it is just a really simple, quick, and easy, and most importantly, inexpensive breakfast to make. Plus, it's really, really healthy. So this is just our go-to breakfast. I meal prep a big batch on a Sunday night, and then we eat it for the next 4 or 5 days, just reheating it in the morning with a little bit of soy milk, and then of course adding some fresh fruit to make it a little bit tastier. So the price on this has gone up a little bit at our Costco, but the amount is so large. It is what? 6.5 pounds of steel cut oats. So it does last us a pretty long time, even eating it pretty much every day for breakfast. And with our steel cut oats, we usually like either chia, flax, or hemp, or sometimes a little combo of the 3. It's really just a great way to supercharge your breakfast in the morning. And these I've also been giving to my daughter when she eats things like vegan yogurt, or I'll even sprinkle some in her oatmeal or her applesauce. She doesn't even notice them. So of course they're a really good source of omega-3 and omega-6, but these are also a good source of protein. For 3 tablespoons, which isn't that much, it's already 10 grams of protein and some healthy fats, which is good for for babies. And because it is such a large quantity, once I open it, I store it just in either the fridge or the freezer to help it last a little bit longer. But if you have a cool place in your house, like a pantry, then this will be fine in there. Speaking of pantry items, the next item is blueberry jam. Now, I was so excited that this brand is back at our Costco because this one is actually no added cane sugar. I think they use sugar from like juice concentrate, which is a little bit different. So there is obviously still sweetener in here, but it is a little bit healthier in terms of jams, and they don't always have it at our Costco. So I was very excited to see it today. Now, the healthiest option would of course be to make your own. Since there is so much summer produce right now, if you have time and you see some strawberries, blueberries, or raspberries on sale, you can always just simmer them on the stove with a little bit of chia seeds. You can add a splash of maple syrup in there if you want to or not. It really is such a simple homemade recipe. I just personally don't have time to home make things like I used to. So in this instance, I'm opting for convenience. These pretzel crisps, I'm sure I have mentioned in other Costco hauls before. They are my absolute favorite with the hummus that I showed you guys. They make such a good snack combo, although these are also really good with peanut butter or with chocolate. Sometimes I do homemade chocolate bark, and you can use these as the mix-in, and it just makes a really nice sweet and salty combo. I love the crispness and thinness of these. It does make them really perfect for dipping and also just really great for snacking. Plus, they were on sale, so even though I did not technically need them, I could not resist the sale price, and I'm sure they will get eaten within the next 6 months. So happy to have these on hand in my pantry. And then my last few items, I got really caught up in the spice aisle at Costco. I almost walked away with like $60 worth of spices before I had to like check myself and realize I maybe don't need all those spices. They do get kind of pricey. I was surprised. A lot of them are around like $8 or $9. I mean, they are a large quantity, but I maybe don't need a large quantity of all those other ones. So I just stuck to some basics that we always use. The everything bagel is of course a classic. I think Trader Joe's invented this. At least they're the first ones that I ever saw carrying that seasoning. But since we don't live near Trader Joe's anymore, I have to opt for the Kirkland one, which looks pretty much the same. You can actually do your own. It's really easy if you have all the ingredients. It's just sesame seeds, salt, garlic, onion, and poppy seeds. So very, very basic, but we go through this very quickly on avocado toast, and it also just makes a nice topping to other things. Probably my favorite use besides avocado toast is on salads. It just makes a really nice topping after you do your dressing. You get these little salty, crunchy bits, and it's just so, so good. And then granulated onion, a super basic one that I had just run out of. I feel like garlic and onion are the go-to spices in my kitchen anyway. So I always just get the large jars of these, and then I refill my smaller ones that I keep in my spice rack. And then the last one, this one was an impulse buy. They were too irresistible. So this is the one that I decided, okay, I'm going to test this one and see if it's any good. So this is the smoked paprika and onion. So I am fresh out of regular smoked paprika, which is a great spice to have on hand if you don't have any. It adds a very delicious smoky flavor to your recipes. So I didn't see anything it's just like a plain smoked paprika like that. So I went for this one instead, which does have a little bit of extra salt and onion in there. So we'll probably give it a nice little extra flavor boost. But yeah, I'm excited to try these out. Actually, let me know in the comments if there are any spices that you have found at Costco that you think are exceptional and worth buying. And also just let me know how this Costco haul compares to what you guys have in your local Costco. I always love to see the differences in stores and what is carried where. And then of course, if you are looking for those other recipes like the chocolate covered dates or caprese sandwich, those are linked down below. So go check those out and I'll see you over there.